her children and how she was going to take care of them, would draw her family together around her knee at night, gather them together, and she would tell them stories, and they would read the scriptures together, and then they would sing the old sad songs that were passed down from her mother, and they were passed down from her mother before her. And I remember Grandma saying how she would sing to her children these old sad songs, and they would start to cry, and she'd say, well, if you're going to cry, I won't sing anymore. And they say, oh, no, Ma, sing another one. And so they'd sing another sad song. And I remember that as a child, we would do the same thing, sitting on the front porch in an old squeaky rocker, and we'd cry, and Mom would say, well, if you're going to cry, I won't sing anymore. And we'd say, oh, no, Mama, sing us another one. And so we would sing. And then when I found myself a single mother and living in that same little house that Grandma Reed raised her children in, and I remember worrying about my children and trying to think, how can I raise my children? How can I teach them the gospel? How can I keep them close to Heavenly Father? I remember those stories that Grandma and my mother used to tell about gathering together around their mother's knee and singing those old sad songs. And so I did that with my children, and as I gathered them around my knee, and we would sing, and they would cry, and I'd say, if you're going to cry, I won't sing anymore. And they would say, oh, no, Mama, let's sing another one. And so that's what we did. We passed on through the generations those beautiful songs that we have all grown to love and sing to our own children. Another thing that we used to do, every Sunday night, after our meetings were over, we would gather at Grandma and Grandpa's house. And we would gather around the piano and sing hymns together. And I remember as a child doing that. After dinner, after getting the dishes done, we'd gather around the piano on Sunday evenings and sing hymns around the piano. And I'm sure that each of you would carry on that tradition in your families too, singing hymns. And then who has not gone to Grandma and Grandpa's house and had them say, now sing for us, or play for us, or do some music for us, some kind of piano song, or sing a song for us. And so tonight, we would like to honor Grandma and Grandpa, our mother and father, with an evening of music and singing the beautiful songs. We'll begin tonight's program. We've asked Roy if he will lead the opening prayer for us. We're going to follow the program that's been outlined. If everyone of you have a program, you can follow along. With the exception, we're still waiting for Marilyn to arrive with her little children. So we're going to start the program with Darlene. She's going to, are you singing or playing, Darlene? Good, she's reading poetry, so we'll begin with Darlene. And then follow along after Darlene, Jessica. Where's Jessica? Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, that's terrific.
I'm sorry, I thought this was going to be more of a spontaneous offering sort of situation here, so I didn't get myself on the program. However, I did prepare. I have brought a couple of poems that I wrote that are about legacies that I have received from my grandparents. The first one is called Wee! Grandma is beckoning, come for a ride. And though I try to be dignified, I can't keep my mouth straight. The corners keep tickling up. And by the time I have mounted, I'm grinning wide. This is the way the children ride. I look right into dancing eyes. My skin feels too tight to hold in the glee of having a grown-up look only at me in this delirious dance of delight. Wild-eyed, I trot tree, all akimbo, flying free. My soul bounces and giggles off of ceilings and walls, climbing and dipping in joyous free fall. Whee! And I gallop in glorious romp, building up, filling up, I'm brimming with joy. Here it comes! And with hobbledy-hoy, I tumble into heaven. And this one is about those sad songs. It's called The Room Where the Ants, that's A-U-N-T-S. The Room Where the Ants Sing. You'd think you wouldn't be nervous in front of family. Their voices and laps and eyes full of love our room that I visit when everything's cold. It was there from the start, a memory created before I had noticed that I was alive. Angels and mothers, these women of mine, listening, asking, and smiling at me. I was young, but they saw me. I knew that they saw me. They saw my new polka dot dress I could twirl in, praised my new haircut, bemoaned my new braces, rejoiced in my triumphs, and sang songs to me. It's the singing that stays with me, houses me, covers me, hiding me safe from the glare of the world. Firstborn in the gatherings under the stars, where I cuddled with mother and melted in firelight, dreamy with sweet women's voices in firelight. My consciousness drifting like smoke up to heaven, wrapped around warmly by sweet songs of tenderness, beautiful sister moms singing the old songs. Those voices that sing lie at the core of me, deep in the dark, quiet spaces inside of me, to which I withdraw when I'm lonely and frightened of being a grown-up. I listen, replay the songs, wrap them around me. The women are singing, and all will be well. And when I remember my own mother's funeral, it isn't the casket or death that I see, but the faces of aunts looking closely and tenderly into my eyes, full of sorrow and sympathy, the soft, loving warmth of their bodies embracing me, feeling like mother, and all that word means. I'm trying to build such room for my own sons, surrounding them each with a blanket of song. I sing them the old songs, and closing my eyes, I hear the aunts and my own mother singing along.
Now this is just a little ditty. It's certainly not as profound as what you've just heard. And if I make a mistake, I know you'll love me anyway. Plus, you've never heard this, so you won't know if it's a mistake or not. So just hope for the best. Sorry.
those true light, reaching for our destiny. This is our Father's plan.
Yes, we'll take a picture.
Or maybe you will.
Ready? Right in here.
Okay.
I am a child of God, and He has sent me here, has given me an earthly home with parents colored green. Guide me, walk beside me, help me find your way. Bear, pumpkin, pear,
parts at once. I heard
I
that.
know, isn't that great?
That's because she's not feeling very well.
she stands. That was my mom on the piano.
Sister Partridge, right?
How's she doing? All right, the three of us will now do a piece. From what I understand, this is the sort of unofficial, or maybe the official Irish national anthem, I'm not sure, but this is The Last Rose of Summer. Corey. Corey.
Lift thine eyes to the mountains, whence cometh help. Thy help cometh.
by Jenny Joseph. When I am an old woman, I shall wear purple, with a red hat that doesn't go and doesn't suit me. I shall spend my pension on brandy and summer slippers and say we've no money for butter. I shall sit down on the pavement when I'm tired and gobble up samples in shops and press alarm bells and run my stick along the public railing and make up for the sobriety of my youth. I'll go out in my slippers in the rain and pick the flowers in other people's gardens and learn to spit. You can wear terrible shirts and grow more fat and eat 3 pounds of sausages at a go, or only bread and pickles for a week, and hoard pens and pencils and beer mats and things in boxes. But now we must wear clothes that keep us dry and read the papers and not swear in the street and set a good example for the children. We must have friends to dinner and read the paper. But maybe I ought to practice a little now, so that people who know me will not be too shocked and surprised when suddenly I am old and start to wear purple.
slatting over this whole could ever happen. Does anybody else want to participate tonight? Anybody else have anything they want to share?
Grandma and Grandpa would like to say something.
Okay, we'll do that. After Grandma and Grandpa, somebody else, would you like to come up and play for us? Okay, Grandma and Grandpa, we'd like to invite you up now to share what you have. And after they're finished, we would like to sing 2 hymns, Let Us All Press On, and then we always have to end with Now the Day is Over. And we'll do all 3 verses with Now the Day is Over.
It's such a beautiful, and to hear all these little children, my great-grandchildren, and my grandchildren participate. It's wonderful. But I'm going to tell you something. I know you've all heard it before, but I thought you might like to hear it once more if you don't know. How the old woman came to live in a shoe. How many know the story of the old woman? I'm sure you've all heard it, but I'm going to tell it to you once more. This is what a woman goes through to keep her family together. There was an old woman who lived in a house, and the house fell down on her head. She took her 12 children under her arms and went to live in a shed. But the winds blew up and the shed blew down, and the children flew far and wide. "Let's go live in a haystack," the cheerful old woman cried. They lived in a haystack very well, 6 boys, 6 girls, and a mother, till the hungry cows ate up their house, and they had to find another. "We'll live in a box by the side of the road," and this they proceeded to do, till a bonfire came and burned their house, and they said, "Let's live in a shoe." But the shoes were too small, and the heels were too tall, and the toes were far too tight. They slept outdoors for weeks and weeks till they found a shoe that was right. A shoe so right, so ruby and bright, it surely couldn't be true. They made their kitchen in the heel and slept in the toe of the shoe. They slept in the toe where the wind couldn't blow. 6 boys, 6 girls in their beds, and out of the holes where the lacings go, they stuck their wee little heads. And every day the old woman would say as she dusted and swept her floor, "If the giant comes who owns this shoe, it won't be our house anymore." But the children played were not afraid while the mother dusted and swept. Till a giant high with his head in the sky came by while the family slept. "Why, here is my good old shoe," he said, "that I lost a year ago." He picked it up, and the children rolled from their 12 little beds in the toe. "We must lie very still so that none of us spill," said the mother, "whatever we do." But the giant heard not even a word as he started home with his shoe. 6 boys, 6 girls, and mother-in-law, they came to the giant's street. "I'll put on my good old shoe," he said, "to comfort my poor old feet." 6 boys, 6 girls, and mother and all lay still in the toe of their house. The giant put in his foot and cried, "A mouse, a terrible mouse!" He ran away in a torrent of tears, and he never came back. No, never. And the old woman said, "We'll live here, my dears, forever and ever and ever."
Now, my dear family and friends, I'm going to be a little bit
something in appreciation of all of you folks and the privilege of being the grandparents to such model grandchildren and children. Now, Afton and I are getting close to the end of the lives that the Lord gave us. We have within us all the seeds of our dissolution, and we won't be with you a great deal longer. But we want to say this in all sincerity, dear friends and family. We have been most pleased with you all of your lives. We have been pleased with you as we have watched you, listened to you in your school performances, in your church performances, in your family night performances. Haven't we had fun?
That's what life's been all about.
On Christmas Eve especially, and now here tonight. I'm sure of this also, dear friends and family, that when we get there together in the realm where Christ dwells, I believe He's going to be very pleased with us if we continue on as we are. And I believe He's going to say to you young people who have practiced, who have learned the principles of good music, communication, Lord, He's going to say, family, well done. Come in, I have found a place for you in the heavenly choirs. And we want to say this in conclusion, that if you will all continue to seek for righteousness in your life, don't let anything divert you into thinking that there is some other way that will bring happiness. There is no other way to happiness than living righteously and developing the best that's in you. I want to say in conclusion, God bless you. Thank you for being the person you are. Continue on. I'd like to say to you men who are preparing yourself for great positions in life, if you can teach America that freedom is righteousness, you will be doing the very best that you can in your life. And if we can possibly convince the American people, they will become what they ought to be, a light to all the world. God bless you all. Now I would like to have my dear wife just say a word of appreciation. It may be very light.
I just want to say, stay together, keep close contact with each other, and love one another. Love is the one thing that will combine everyone together. And our family has been a loving family. Keep it up. God bless you.
go, and then to have his own private time with thinking of the good memories that we have all had of Mother. And I know that these days are going to be kind of lonely for Dad after the family all goes home. We just want him to know how much we love him, and we want to be able to leave this to him to bring him comfort in his lonely times when we can't be here with him. And so I think it would be good if we started out with a verse of "There is beauty all around when there's love at home." And then if we could have an opening prayer. Leon, would you give us an opening prayer after the song? Okay. There is beauty all around when there's love at home. There is joy in every sound when there's love at home. Peace and plenty here abide, smiling sweet on every side. Time does softly, sweetly glide when there's love at home. Love at home. Love at home. Time does softly, sweetly glide when there's love at home.
Our Heavenly Father, as we gather here together tonight as a family on the evening of our mother's funeral, we tend to thank Thee, Father, for the blessings Thou hast given to us today, for the love that we felt together during the funeral and at the viewing last night. We thank Thee for the words and the music that were offered. We thank Thee for holding off the storm until after the cemetery service, and for all the good friends and relatives and family that came to express their love for Mother. And we thank Thee again for the opportunity to gather tonight as a family, and again share one another's love and enjoy Mother's spirit here. We ask and invite Thy Spirit Lord, to be with us here, that what's said and done will be uplifting and encouraging to each of us, and hold dear the sacred memory of our Mother, and that it may be comforting to Dad. And we again thank Thee, Father, for the great plan of eternal progression that we understand through membership in the church. And we know that Thou hast many, many wonderful blessings planned for us in this life and beyond. And pray that we may live up to those opportunities and missions and challenges that Thou hast given us here, and enjoy life in its fullest. And we ask these blessings, Father, and invite Thy Spirit to be with us in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay, we would like to just turn the time over to each of you, expressing your thoughts and your feelings about Grandma and about Mom, and just anything that you would like to contribute tonight. We're taping this, so maybe whoever is speaking can speak up so that they can be filmed and heard on the tape.
I'd better start because I probably have the worst memory of anybody here, and I'll get mine over real fast. I remember a lot of things about Mom, but I think that I do acknowledge that Mom had several stages of her life. There was the stage when we older kids were all little, and I don't remember an awful lot about it except she was always there. I do remember one of my earliest recollections of her was when I was in the kitchen, and I can't remember what was happening. She was serving us a lunch, and I looked up at that lady, and I must have been about 7 or 8 years old, and I can remember seeing her, and I thought, I didn't have the words to put it in my mind, but I know now this is what I was thinking. Boy, that lady is familiar. I just can't imagine anybody looking more regular than she does. I mean, she was just a regular person, and everything in me just knew her as my mom, and I just loved it. And I couldn't remember a time I didn't know her, and I knew that every other lady I knew, I hadn't known all my life, but I did know her, and she just looked so familiar to me. And so I just remember her standing, just a flash in my mind of her standing there feeding us something there for dinner. Another memory that comes to me of my mom was when I was on my mission in New Zealand. And they had sent me a tape from home that had some things on it that were familiar to me, and they knew some of the pieces that I really liked. And one of them was the slow movement from Tchaikovsky's Symphony No. 6, Pathetique. And I was listening to that, and I remember lying there on my back on the couch down in New Zealand listening to that, and it was just transporting. What I didn't know was that it was getting near to be the end of the tape, and Mom knew that. And so I was sitting there just listening to that off somewhere, and her voice came in. I said, "Kenneth?" And it was as though she was right there trying to wake me up. She said something to the effect that, "Kenneth, the tape is just about over, so I'm going to take the rest of the time to talk to you." And so she did. And she talked to me, you know, and wished me the things that mothers wish their missionaries. But just that intimate, familiar, total familiarity of that voice coming on saying, "Kenneth," the way she did, and interrupting that music, it's just one of the memories I have of her. Other things, of course, I'm sure we all remember Mom with her painting and how she would sometimes get to the point where she was itching to do another one. And so she'd get out her things, and we'd come down here, and she'd be painting, she'd be working on one, and she'd show us what she was doing. And I appreciated that. When I got busy raising my own family at home, I didn't get down here as much as I could have. And so there were some years there where I didn't spend a lot of time with Mom. But I do know that she had her interests in her church work and her Sweet Adelines and in the other things that she was doing that we'd hear about when we came down, but I didn't have the same kind of intimate relationship with her that I'd had when I was a little boy. And I do realize how much of what I am she gave to me. And as we were parting here the other night when we all came to say goodbye to her, all I could think of was Mom as being the light that has guided me in my life. And, that's what I consider from Mom.
You talked about her being very familiar to you as a young child. I can remember a dream I had, and I probably was not over 8 or 9. But we were at a ward function, and I saw all the ladies of the ward that I knew. Zella Nesbitt has always had a very similar appearance to Mom, and I guess it's because her hairstyle is the same, whatever. But I was looking at all the ladies in the ward, and Zella was there, and I remember Virginia Meredith, and just all sorts of women there. And then Mom came onto the scene, and all of a sudden, she was the most beautiful woman there. And that's all I could think of, was my mom is the prettiest mom of anybody in the ward. I don't know why I would dream such a thing, but it's stuck with me forever. And she always was.
Remember when moms aren't cool when you're in junior high. You know, especially moms who make your clothes. And everybody else has a label on the back of their shirt. You have loving homemade stuff. Yeah. But I remember when I first realized how Mom was cool when I would open up my lunch and those little round sandwiches that I was so ashamed of. The kids came and looked at them and thought that was, "Where did you get that bread? That's cool." No, Mom used to bake bread, and she would bake them vertical in the oven because you get more in there, and they'd be in fruit juice cans that were hollowed out, and she stand them up, and the loaves would look like tall mushrooms, and they come on, they come big on the top. And when she sliced those, just right, they'd be perfectly round slices, kind of like hamburger buns, only not puffy. And that was a curiosity. And those guys would see that sandwich with that on and wondered how that, I know where that comes
Tuna fish sandwich.
from. Yeah.
What about ground spam with pickles?
Oh,
yeah.
my mouth's watering when you say that. I love that. Ground up spam and dill pickles in it. Oh,
Almost a nice
And the scrapple?
I love it.
scrapple, I don't know about.
Scrapple here, we use that.
She never eat scrapple.
Y'all remember Pigs in the Blanket?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We have them off.
Pigs in the Blanket mean different things in different families, but to me it was always some nice pork sausage rolled up into little long things like hot dogs. They weren't the kinds that came in the skins, but they were just like ground up sausage. And then rolled in a kind of a pie crust dough and baked in the oven. And those were pigs in the blanket, and eaten with ketchup on them.
Yep.
And I haven't had that for a long number of years.
I was sharing with some of the family earlier today about mush, and all of us, how we have our memories of mush, and we hated mush. And we always had to have mush every single day. And it got to be where we just had to eat just that much of it. So you knew it was just the principle of the thing. And I don't know how 1 tablespoon of mush was going to make us be strong and healthy, but it was, and we had to eat
I want to know how they
that.
got it that nice green color.
Yeah, but I was sharing today about the day when Mom and Dad had found a new brand of wheat mush that was much less expensive than what they'd been getting, and it was, a great big huge bag for having what they bought the other one for. And so they brought it home and fixed this mush for that wheat mush that next day. And as we sat down, some of us started eating it, and we said, "Oh, this tastes like wallpaper paste." And of course, Dad says, "Oh, the regular fight with the mush. No, just eat it. Just eat it. It's good for you. It'll taste good." But it tastes like wallpaper paste. And so they made us eat our mush. And finally, when neither Mom or Dad sat down to eat theirs, and they tasted it, and they said, "Oh, this tastes like wallpaper paste." And they looked, and it was a great big huge bag of wheat wallpaper paste. Yeah.
I remember how
I know.
I remember how
Grandpa, your sins are being revealed over there.
You remember when we tried to strip the wallpaper off this wall? It was that paste.
I remember when I didn't know what leftovers were. I mean, seriously, really. My kids would be, my friends would be complaining about having leftovers again. And, I was, fairly along in school where I learned leftovers. Some people actually have, when they get through with their meal, food that isn't eaten yet. And it was leftovers. But, I remember, I guess it was about the time I came home from a mission, I think it was, when, for the first time, we had dinner, a Sunday dinner, and had a big roast beef, and there was leftovers to put in the fridge and have for another meal. Do you remember that? Do you remember that when we'd be served a serving, and you can say it with me, eat it slowly and enjoy it,
because that's all
there
you
is.
get.
And we
About
did.
amen, please pass the meat.
Yeah,
It was
amen.
especially that way for ice cream. Eat it slowly, because that's
Yeah,
all
what
you
about-
Well, but now that I insist you have more.
If you go home, it's not my fault.
And I can remember after I was married and got out of school, and life started to get a little bit more comfortable, and we had a little bit that we could put away. I remember actually feeling these pangs of guilt because our little family, my wife and maybe 1 or 2 children, we would have a Sunday roast that was bigger than fed the 10 of us here. And I felt, for a long time, felt guilty about it.
Yeah, it grows on you though.
So you get used to it.
Yeah.
Well, I know we all learned the fundamentals of cooking from Mom, just from watching. And I know all of us have sat up next to the stove watching the pancakes, When the bubbles rise to the top, and about half of them have popped, then it's time to turn it. So she would let us tell her. But I do remember that Mom came up with a recipe. I don't know where she got it, but it was brown sugar pancakes. And she would make those, and they were the sweetest thing. They had little chunks of brown sugar in them. And it was almost like candy to eat them. And I loved it. She wouldn't make it all the time because they were kind of rich, probably not that good for you. But I do know that from my early recollections of pancakes was taking regular old Bisquick pancakes and sprinkling them all over with enough sugar that when you took a bite in it crunches with the crystals. And we'd eat the
Rolling them out?
rolling them up, yes. Roll up a pancake with sugar and crunch it away.
A lot of these things sound familiar from our household, like the bread, the round bread, and the rolled up pancake.
You know what I'd like to hear? You folks have listened to us talk so much. I would like to hear some of the memories of some of the grandchildren with Grandma. I would like to know what special things that they remember about Grandma.
Excellent.
I wouldn't because some of them talk so long and some of them aren't interesting.
Anybody want to talk, grandchildren? No? Okay, we got it.
I'd like to hear one of the grandchildren.
Brian was just going to say
Tell
something
about the time that Mom made the pancakes at Mirror Lake, and we didn't have any baking powder. And we went around every campsite. You remember knocking on tents and cabins trying to get them? We finally had them without, and boy, they were flat and they were round. No other similarity. They were holder to shoe leather.
But boy, you eat a lot of them, huh?
So, kids, tell us about that if you know.
I remember.
Okay, grandkids, go for it.
Grandma or
Susan?
Susan?
Well, I remember something. I came this summer when I was, I guess, about 11, and stayed with Grandma and Grandpa. And those of you who remember me at 11, I was kind of a chubby little girl. And I don't think anyone had ever told me anything good about my body my whole life. And Grandma said to me, she said, Susan, you really have a nice waist. She said, I really wish I had a waist like yours. I've always just been straight up and down. You have a really nice waist. And that really meant so much to me because no one had ever told me anything. I mean, they always told me I was a nice girl and blah, but I mean something about my body that was, nice. And I always remember that. And I always thought, I have a nice waist. So, she's always I have a lot more.
Marianne, do you have everything on board? Tomatoes.
You like coming over here on Sunday and having from her little humorous book that she had found recently. She always had ice cream. She likes to have ice cream at home. Sometimes you
I remember another thing that summer when I was with them. This probably has a little bit to do with why I was chubby, but I really did like ice cream.
Tell me about it.
But I knew that it was not polite to ask to go to an ice cream shop or something. So I never would ask. But I knew where they were. And when we were passing by in the car, I think, oh, I hope that Grandma and Grandpa say, let's go to this ice cream. And about 95% of the time, they would pull into the ice cream shop and get an ice cream. And I know that Grandpa is still trying to convince people that vanilla is the best flavor. He would always tell me that vanilla was the best flavor.
Or ketchup.
But Grandpa always made me feel okay no matter what flavor I picked. Grandpa was always the one that told me which one was the right one. But Grandpa always let me pick whatever I wanted and I was fine. Just
You know that
whatever
that
I
just happened
picked.
with ice cream flavor.
Help those people in the
What?
hall find
That
cheer.
just happened with ice cream flavor.
I know, that's kind of like an analogy there.
Well, Speaking of pitting mom and dad against each other, we would always know going out. If when dad said something, if mom ever said no, it was this other way, or no, it is that way, we would always back mom. We would always try to get dad to bet an ice cream cone, but he was right. So we would usually, when that happens, yeah, we've got the ice cream cone. Mom would never contradict dad unless she absolutely knew she was right. That was a big thing.
Brian, what do you know about Grandma?
I'm trying to remember specific memories. Well, there was an incident where, I don't know if she was the only one behind it or whether she was a co-conspirator with Grandfather. I don't know if you guys remember Nestle Quick, when they had the strawberry Nestle Quick. They probably still do.
Bunny Milk?
Bunny Milk.
Bunny Milk.
Yeah, okay, that's what it was. And we would love to come here and she fix that for us. And so one morning we went down there, she fixed it for us, and we drank it, and we started to clean like, that just tastes like milk. And my mom was there, and she's like, Brian, stop it. She's not complaining, she got it for you, and I'm like, but it just tastes like milk. And she must have been over there, Grandma must have been snickering. Because it was April Fool's, and she had just used
Pink food
pink
coloring.
food coloring. And she finally admitted it, but we were getting in big trouble because we kept complaining. Oh, it's just wrong.
Kind of like the wallpaper. Shut up and eat your taste.
She got us one year. It was April Fool's Day, and it was towards the end of the day, and most people had forgotten that it was April Fool's Day. And she set out dinner. The only thing that was just a little different from dinner is that she had already filled our glass with green Kool-Aid.
It's orange.
Or orange Kool-Aid. She filled orange Kool-Aid and had the picture there. So we all sat down and had a pair, and we started to drink our orange Kool-Aid, and it was Jell-O. She did Jell-O. We were just laughing.
Well, and don't forget the cupcakes with the cotton ball in the middle of it.
Was Mom on that April Fool's Day that set the clocks forward an hour?
That was
That was
All
an hour
the schools decided on it, no school today.
Well, and Dad one time came and filled the water glasses on April Fool's Day and put salt in all of them.
Gary never did figure that out.
I have a grandma memory. This is from Jennifer. She was telling us the other day, and she's not here, so I can tell it. But she was telling me about when they'd stay over, and Grandma'd give them something for breakfast, and she'd say, "Oh, your mom's favorite breakfast was bread and milk." And so Jennifer, of course, wanting to be like her mom in every way, decided she was going to have this bread and milk. Well, when she tried it, bread with milk poured over it, a little bit of sugar, she just about gagged, and that's about what I did when I had bread and milk. Grandma was trying to pull one over on her, so Jennifer had a hard time believing Grandma after that.
Were your crackers wet or dry? Yeah, were they wet or
I
dry?
loved crackers and milk, but I couldn't take the bread and milk. Never could.
Toasted milk was okay, but that's supposed to like
Crackers and milk we have, and you'd have to keep looking at it, wet or dry. And if it was crunchy, you try it with crunch. If it was wet, well, you know how a graham cracker is, it's wet.
I have a few memories. I remember as a really small child, I spent so much time here, and Grandma, I was trying to remember specific memories of her, and she was just always here. I would come home from school, and often I would come here to Grandma's, and I'd help her can grape juice or help her cook things, and I had my share of cheese bread and peaches growing up. But I remember once as a very small child coming over, and there was an exercise show on television. I can't remember what it was called, but there was this old lady on it, and she'd use soup cans for weights. And so Grandma'd get in here, and she'd have her chair set up, and she'd get her soup cans, and she'd get me some little soup cans to use, and we'd exercise in the living room. And I didn't want to tell anybody that I exercised with an old lady on television. It was my grandma, but that's a good memory that I have, and and she'd put on records. I remembered these old records that jump down, turn around, pick a bale of cotton. That one sticks out in my head. But we'd put on the dress-ups and twirl around, and Grandma would just play right along with us here in the living room. And
Pincushions.
oh yeah, she taught us how to do the pin cushions, and she was just always there. She was just part of my life, just like the grandfather clock in the living room, just always there. And I always wanted to please her. And I think one time I did something wrong, or I got into trouble, I got into something I shouldn't have, and she kind of scolded me for it. And I was very small when it happened, and after that I just thought, I can never do anything wrong because I don't want to get Grandma mad at me. I didn't care about anybody else but Grandma, And sometimes when we'd have breakfast here, they'd ask, do you want Grandma mush or Grandpa mush? And I was so afraid. I did not like Grandpa mush. But I didn't want to say, well, I don't want Grandpa mush and just want Grandma mush. So sometimes I'd ask for Grandpa mush. And I remember one time Grandma saying, oh, Irvin, she doesn't want Grandpa mush. And I thought, yes, Grandma, thank you. But she knew all of us. She knew us.
Yeah.
More than I realized. And when I talked to her on the phone the other night before she died, I just, I didn't know what to say. What do you say? You wrap up 29 years of your life that you spent with your grandma in just 2 minutes. And so I just told her I loved her, and I was excited to see her again. And she said, well, I love you more than you'll know, and I'll be listening for you to sing. And so I thought, well, now I got to sing in the word choir. I can't put that off any longer. But when she said, I'll love you more than you'll ever know, I realized that all those years of her remembering our birthdays and our likes and dislikes, she really knew us, and I loved her so much. So those are my memories.
Mom was really patient. I was so thankful for her availability at the time when I really needed a mom to help through some hard things that I was going through. And she was so loving and kind to take my little children from you. And I had to go to work and had to leave them. Mother was available to take my little children. And there was no place on earth where I felt like my kids could be safe and trained and raised the way that I wanted them to be raised was here in this home. And so I was so very grateful for the job that she did in helping me to raise my little ones. And I remember especially Corey, sensitive little Corey. He just has such a tender, sensitive heart. I don't know how many of you knew how hard it is for him to get through that song. Today I think is the first time he's ever sung that song when he hasn't broken down and cried. But he's always had such a sensitive spirit about him, and Mom knew that. And when Corey was very young, he loved to lay on the floor with his head on Mom's feet.
Don't tell this story.
He'd take her shoes off and lay his head on her feet, where she had the nylon stockings on her feet, and he would stroke her legs and her feet, and he loved to touch her golden stocking. I don't know if he had a fetish or what. He loved, and Mom was the only one that he trusted to do that. He loved the feel of those stockings on her legs. But he wouldn't do it with me. He wouldn't do it with anybody else because we'd laugh at him or make fun or something. But Mom just allowed him to do it, and he was so trusting of her that he would lay on her feet and stroke her legs and just take in and absorb those golden stockings.
I've got to admit, he loved to do it with me too. He said, no, never tell anybody. Who here has not had Mom come up with the most fantastic idea for a Halloween costume at the last minute? You're just heartbroken because you got to go to school and walk through all the classrooms and you have nothing, and suddenly out of the blue, she'd come up and tuck here and a pull here and something when she pulls, and off you go.
Yeah,
And
Halloween costumes and Valentine's boxes. Remember the Valentine's boxes and just helping create some incredible things for Valentine's, for our Valentine's in.
She'd make a very small one because I only used to get only one Valentine. And it was for me.
Well, I have to tell you that there are a couple of memories that I have of Mom that are really pretty painful. And one occasion that I don't know that anybody knows about but Leon and me and perhaps Jerry, because we were really little. The mom that she became in later years came through trial and error, and I think that we gave Mom a lot of difficulty. I know there were times when, as really little children, we were really exasperating to her, and we could make her very angry at us. But she never took it out on us. She never, hit us or beat us or anything like that. But we could tell that she was really hurting because she would cry. And whenever it would get unbearable for her, and it wasn't very often that it happened, we'd be in our bed and we'd be screaming or something, and Mom would just turn to us and she'd say, "I'm leaving." And she just couldn't take it anymore, and she would go out of the house. And as little kids, probably 5, 6, 7 years old, we thought that we'd driven Mom away. And for however long it took her to go out and walk around the block a couple of times to get her composure so she wouldn't yell at us, we were there thinking that we were totally bereft of a mother. And I can remember there is nothing sweeter, no relief that's greater than to be in that mood with your Mom and once again to hear her voice in the other room talking to Dad or someone and know that she'd come back and that she hadn't left us. And I feel really guilty for having driven her to that, but I take my hat off to her for what, the way she was able to take it out by walking it out rather than taking it out on us. The other thing that I remember that's rather painful was when, I don't think it was Ramona, I think it was Leon, that had a dress made for a special event at school. And Mom, of course, really liked to be creative and to do things nice. And she had made something special. She'd made a special kind of a waistband for this. And it was a fitted waistband out of this very nice orange or yellowish golden cloth. And it had, it was tapered, it came up to a little peak or something, and had a rick-rack around the top, and it was really a nice fitted piece. And my sister put it on, and I think didn't care for it that much, but didn't want to say so, or maybe did say, "I don't want to wear it with that belt." And so Mom, having worked a long time on this handcrafted piece, turned to me and she said, "Kenny, what do you think? Do you like it better with the belt or without?" And I looked at her and I said, "Well, honestly, Mom, I think I like it better without the big belt on it." And I can remember the hurt look in her face, and she took it and she said, "Okay, I'll wear it." She put it away. And I remember later how guilty I felt.
So you let her go to her death without telling her that?
Well, actually, I did like it better without the belt. Was that you, Leon?
Every kid thinks their mother is dead, and they all know that. But it's something different to have that special quality recognized by someone other than family, particularly a teacher. I can remember going to a school, and it was bazaar time, and Mom was busy as could be. I think she made half the stuff herself when they told her. But we were at school, and we would come home for lunch, of course. And I remember Mrs. Pawson turning to me just before lunch and saying, "Roy, I want you to tell your mother to save me a piece of her cake, and I'm going to the bazaar and I'm going to have that for lunch today." That's all she said. But that meant to me that a teacher that I respected knew my mom, first of all, and that she appreciated something my mom did. And that always sat with me as, the first time I think that I knew Mom was special to someone other than just me. And it was really a great feeling.
How reassuring it was to come home from school and to walk in the house and call out Mom and to hear her answer. And when you'd come home from school and you'd call out and she wasn't there, how empty, how awful empty this house was until she got home again.
Especially if she had Emma to take the place.
Oh,
Lunch.
thank you.
About that.
Oh, I've forgotten that.
Anyone else? Anyone else?
I
And she brought
remember
that big, thick coloring book with her.
a couple things about Grandma. I was on a trip here, staying with Grandma, and I was kind of debating about marrying Byron. And I was going back and forth, should I, shouldn't I? And Grandma sat down with me in the living room and she said, marriage is a wonderful thing, Susan. She said, it's a good choice. She just kind of calmed me down about the whole situation. And something that I really admire about her and the way she and Grandpa were is that I could go in and talk with Grandpa and he would tell me how sports bring us away from the Lord. And then I'd go into the other room and Grandma was saying, And I remember going in and watching her painting her nails at the table. And I remember how Mom used to tell me, she told me that one birthday she got nail polish and how, what did Grandpa say? Something about sensible girls nail polish. And yet Grandma wore nail polish her whole life.
Yes, it was, boss.
and so I just liked the way Grandma was her own woman. I mean, she loved and she supported Grandpa, and he loved and supported her. But he didn't tread on each other's personalities. They let each other be who they were, and that's probably one of the reasons why she gave you the advice she did. Marriage is a wonderful thing because they were able to be themselves and be happy, and they've given us a great example of that.
I'd like to see by show of hands, how many of you consulted Mom and were sort of pushed into even marrying the person you married after a talk with Grandma?
I would not be married if my mom hadn't come.
She had to almost do the asking in your case, Donnie, didn't she?
What?
She had to almost do the asking in your case. Almost.
Well, we see that Grandma was wrong sometimes.
She could be really strict too sometimes, I think I was nearly 14 before she finally let me have my navel piercing. I have a story about her matchmaking efforts. I always thought they were funny. She took such pride in her previous successes until her skills were turned on me. Because, Joelle was Susan's roommate at the time I was dating her, and so for Thanksgiving, we would all come here just to have a big Thanksgiving party here. And I remember one of them when Joelle and I had gotten more serious, that Grandma pulled Joelle over in front of me. I was already standing right next to him, and just said, "Joelle, just realize no matter what happens," she's like looking at me, "no matter what happens, you'll always be family." Okay. It worked.
Well, Mom didn't ever really give me any advice, but I remember when it was finally clear who I was going to marry, my mom just said one thing to me. She says, "Kenneth, now that you've made your choice, stop looking."
What was it again, Ken?
She said, "Now that you've made your choice, stop looking."
Oh, yeah. Very good. He's never been a looker since then.
Well, one thing that
Thank you.
I remember a lot of things about Grandma, and you know, I've just been thinking about it all since Wednesday when my mom first called me. And my first summer job ever, the way I earned money to go to Brighton camp was coming over here and helping Grandma clean. And just spending every Friday that summer with her. We cleaned the blinds, we dusted the knickknacks, we washed the walls, we washed the stairs, we did everything. And that was really good to me, to be able to spend some time with her, and just, that's when we got to be good friends as well as her being my grandma. But I remember thinking about what my dad said about someone else recognizing that she was about the coolest person anywhere besides just the family. When I was in nursery, she came in one time to do the little flyaway jack, flyaway Jill thing. I never could figure out how she got them to disappear like that. But I was, probably about 14 or 15. But she came in and did that, and all the other kids were so impressed. How did she do that? That's my grandma. And I was the coolest person there, and I was always so excited for Grandparents' Day to come at school because I got to show off my cool grandma, my cool grandpa. They'd always teach them how to play poor old women sick in bed. And everyone would be talking for weeks about my grandparents. Oh, we should have Elizabeth's grandparents come back again. They
All
were
the
fun.
other kids would play with our grandparents.
Yeah.
Yes!
I remember something kind of like that. We went to a wedding once. And Grandma's photo was up, and someone said, "Oh, who did that? That's really pretty." And that's my grandma, full hot.
That's good.
Well, I remember when we would come over here, like when my parents were on vacations or whatever, I always got so spoiled because when I was in the bath, I would get the cool little washcloth with the face on it. And then when I would ask her, I would get to sleep in the dress-ups instead of in my pajamas.
I didn't get to do
My
that.
parents would hate me for the week or whatever.
Well, Grandma let me does.
See, at Grandma's house, they didn't have any rules. But, so you could do whatever you wanted and it was okay. So we loved coming here.
She got lax with you guys, 'cause boy, we had rules.
She was born in. I used to go in the basement and like snoop around of all the things down there, and then we'd find something that we really wanted, and so then we'd come up and we just kind of, oh well, we saw this in the basement, and it was really cool, and eventually Grandma would end up giving us that thing after a few hints. I still have some of those things in my room at home, actually, that I had from her basement.
Well, I think we were all manipulative of her. I remember one time Leona and I got it into our heads to make Mom do something. She had that little song she always used to sing, you know, "Oh, please tell me, darling, do you really love me?" And then every verse you'd cut one letter off, one word off the end, so you finally end up, "Oh, please tell me, oh, please tell, oh, please, oh." And so Leon and I said, let's go up and let's start to sing that. And let's see if we can make it so that pretty soon Mom is singing it. And then let's see if by the time she gets to the end, she'll make it really fancy where she goes, oh, please. So, and so we decided to do that, and we came up and tried it. And sure enough, it took about 20 minutes. Pretty soon Mom was singing it, and then finally she, oh, please, oh, yes.
Remember how Grandma could sing harmony with herself? Only one I knew who could sing a duet or a trio.
Three part.
Get all the parts right.
How many of you as mothers would put up with all of the spook alleys we had, the carnivals we had, the shows, the movies we had out in all the neighborhoods, and she would put up with all of them, no matter what amount of commotion or horror we would bring upon any of the neighbor kids. She was willing to go along with it and let us do our thing, and she knew that, you know, I can repair that. We can take care of that.
That I found out she got a 10% cut of everything.
We hardly ever burned the house down, though.
Just a few times.
It got better.
What about poor Scott Parkinson on the tramway, though?
Well,
Let
I'll
us
tell
try
you what a
everything.
typical dinner time was at our place. There was, well, early on, there was Mom and Jerry and Dad and Ken and me and Gordon. Let's see, anyway, Gordon was way off by himself in the high chair at the end of the table, and Mom and Dad were flanking Jerry. Then as it got on, as years went by, Jerry and Gordy sat right next to each other. And they were the whole time doing little things, had their own private little conversation going on. And the dinner table was quite lively, you might say, quite noisy. I remember after dinner, of course, a lot of the younger children would just disappear into the woodwork because, you know, it was dishes after that. So I remember Mother and Dad and I sitting at the table, and it was all of a sudden it was quiet. We were all just leaning back. And Dad said, you know, someday we'll look back and say these are the best years of our lives. But I always admired how Mother could put up with all the chaos. It's just, you know, not bad things, just active family. 8 children, you know, running around, each with their own activities and things. I would have to go upstairs to my room at night just to get away from the noise and kind of settle down a little bit. But I never saw Mother ever have to go to her room and shut the door. She always wanted to be right among the group and in the middle of it and know what was going on. And she always loved to be with her family. Well, you saw the other night how she felt better when the family was all there. And she just rose to the occasion, and that was when Mom was the happiest, was when she had her family around her. And I've admired her so much for that. I wish I could be more like that.
Do you folks remember when Leon used to go up in the room and we'd all sit down there and say, oh.
Leon was talking about the chaotic dinners or supper, but I don't think many people know that we never had dinner or supper on Sunday at our house. We never had an evening Sunday meal. It was
Don't say it, don't say it, don't say it!
Tell us, Gordon.
Snack!
7-course snack.
It didn't matter how big it was. It could be a whole huge meal, but it was always just a snack on Sunday evening.
With cheese, with the cheese toast burned just right. Burned just right, huh?
You had to have-
Joven that broiler.
You had to have the Velveeta just dark enough that you could pick it up
Kinda
like this and it would fold over.
Couldn't make it that way.
You know, one of my very earliest memories is coming here to Grandma's house and being, I don't know, about this high, and looking around and seeing all the aunts and uncles, and you were all laughing, just like this, just laughing stories. I had no idea what you were talking about. All I knew was when all the aunts and uncles and Grandma and Grandpa get together, they laugh and laugh and laugh. And one of my, well, I was just thinking today, when I think of Grandma, the image that I have in my mind is when she would tell a story, how excited she got. She'd start telling you, and then pretty soon she was sitting up a little bit on the edge of the chair, and her eyes would sparkle, and listen to this, and she would just get so excited to tell the stories.
She told me, when she was in Atlanta, she told me the story of a conversion of a friend of Ramona's. And she must have taken an hour to tell me that story.
It took about
And
that
then Ramona came and she said, I don't think you've heard the story. And she started to say it. I said, Ramona, I have heard that story.
I can tell it better than you can.
She came home on Saturday night and started to tell us about Ben Hur, and we all were late for school on Monday.
It was a Friday she started.
Well, I remember sitting in amazement watching Grandma do little things. I don't know if any of you have ever, I'm sure a lot of the granddaughters have sat and watched Grandma do little projects or little things with her hands. Wrapping presents. I've watched Grandma wrap presents and do all kinds of interesting wrapping situation designs. And one time I said, Grandma, because my mother, she's not one to like branch out on a real creative way of doing something generally. And so I thought things were pretty much, mapped out the way they were supposed to be. wrapping presents or whatever. And I said, Grandma, what are you doing? Because she was folding a paper a funny way, you know. She said, oh, I'm just doing a little grandma-y thing here. And it was like this weird folded card or something. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really cool, you know. I didn't know that you could just go off and do your own thing at things. I thought it had to be all step by step, you know, methodology. But that was one of my, I was just a tiny little girl, you know, and it was my first touch of, you know, the creativity just coming forth. Thinking how neat that was.
Yeah, you were talking about doing cool little things with her hands and stuff. One of the funniest things I can remember is when Grandma would hold up her hand and it would spell wow. With her fingers. I thought that was cool. My hand's starting to do that too. So I'm like, Grandma hands. Yeah.
Did you notice her hands today? The little finger.
Yeah, I saw a little bent finger just like that.
You mean me?
That's my mom said, Mom.
Yeah.
Another memory, Grandma and the presents that she would give. She always had little stashes of presents. And they were the weirdest things you could ever imagine.
It's called fur tagging.
It broke her heart when they went out of business.
I know.
She wrote to them, and she got a personal letter back, didn't she, Dad, from the family who had run that, who apologized for the thank her for keeping your business all those many years. I think it was Pick and Save that finally took over.
She called us up one night though, and she said, "Bring your family over for family night. We're going to play bingo." And so we'd called Roy's family and our family, and we came over and we played bingo. And she had cleaned out Dad's drawer. We got charms that said Charlie or somebody that were scratched. They were just the treasures that she thought, oh, these would make good bingo gifts.
I made up that bingo game. I those things and it said how many you're going to do. She actually pulled it off.
Yeah, because you girls were like,
we were playing.
Let's have a party. And so you invited them to bingo. But she didn't realize that you had just been joking and then decided, oh, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And so we all got together and played bingo.
Football time.
She always had the funniest little gifts. One time she gave us this, I guess to my mom, she gave her this poem, you know, Footprints in the Sand, but it was outside was this little seagull, and you could turn it out. And a little seagull will do a little dance.
Well, it plays Amazing Grace.
And she gave me a pretty little pink butterfly brooch. I love that. You know, it's just neat colors on it. And a couple of years later, she gave me another one that was different colors. Boy, I didn't say you already gave me one. I took it, and I have those too.
When I was little, I used to go into her jewelry box and pull out all of her she had a bunch of rings and all her crystal necklaces and things that she'd have, and I'd wear them and think I was so beautiful, and then as I got older, I realized that it was grandma jewelry that I was, you know, looking so beautiful, and it was grandma jewelry, but it was so pretty on grandma, you know, it was grandma's jewelry, and it just always seemed like sacred ground walking in and playing with her jewelry.
Yeah, I always loved going to church on Sunday and sitting by Grandma because I knew that I could play with whatever neat pin she was wearing that day. There was a little one that looked like the peacock feathers with little black speckled balls or whatever it was. All these fun sorts of things, and she'd always have something little for me to play with when I was at church and bored and 3 years old. Like
Did she fold the hankies for you?
She did that all the time.
Twins
Yeah. She kept me from being a little mischief maker in Saturdday meeting.
Well, I knew really early on what a special, caring person she was. Even when I told her goodbye the other night, and she said she loved me, I said,
and I have loved you since before I married Ken. When I was just finishing up my college work, and I had to take a comprehensive exam, it really scared me, and it was really, really hard. Ken wasn't even around, he was in the service. And when I found out I passed, whom did I call to tell her? Mom. I didn't call my mother. She, I thought she would just say, well, of course you did, but no. I called Mom and told her I passed, and she was so thrilled for me, and I knew she wouldn't. That's why I told her. I loved her, and I knew she loved me.
She was so supportive. I look back at school plays and recitals, and she and Grandpa were always there.
Years ago, they didn't have wash and wear and permanent press stuff. So whenever Mom would do the ironing, she'd have to open it up, open up the shirts or whatever, dip her hand in some water, splash it on the things, roll them up in little balls, and then set them aside for a while. And then that few drops of moisture would permeate it and get the cotton all ready to accept the iron. And then she could iron them all out. And of course, if it ever went too long, they go mildewy. And so that was always her incentive to get the ironing done. But as a small child, I remember that there was always the ironing basket. And 3 or 4 times in my recollection, Mom would come out and she would be elated. She says, I found the bottom of my ironing basket. She finally caught up. And I don't know how often she did that. But I remember how pleased she was when she got an iron right, the big mangle with the steel plate across the top that heats, and with your knees you can knock it, it would come down and the thing would turn automatically. And she got so that she could just iron up a storm with that. Shirts, everything, and I don't know if there's anybody ever who's been as skilled at ironing that as she was.
Remember when Mom learned that she could put the down for the clothes, rolled up down and put them in the freezer and come back later and get them?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can thaw them out. They're still sprinkled, run them through the mango.
Yeah, she always let us do the
napkins.
napkins.
Twin tub Dexter.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Great sewing.
something. Yeah.
We went to a museum down in Palm Springs, didn't we? Lynn and I, and they had it was like a little old store that had everything in it, probably of the 20s and 30s and 40s. But there was that old twin tub Dexter. Sure reminded me of Mom. How proud of her.
Well, I remember when she got the Kenmore washer, and I don't know if
Single tub.
Yeah, it was a single tub, but it had the wringer that you could push and it would turn over, and
Swing it out of the
then
way.
you could go out of one or the other, and it had a sud station
Into the tub, yeah.
so that it would she'd wash the clothes, and then it would take that soapy water and pour it all out into the tub, and then load up with rinsed water and rinse to get rid of it. And then for the next batch, it would suck it back up into the washer again, and you could use the same soap suds over and over again.
Just like our regular Saturday dance. Luckily we got the first half. Otherwise she had to be in there and she'd bring the whole tea kettle and pour hot water in, and boy, that sure be a nice. More hot water.
I remember Dad, of course, doing nimmy-nims for all of us. And if you're like me, my grandkids just love to do nimmy-nims. But how old was I? I'm trying to remember the last time that Mother held me in her lap, and I was a pretty big kid, and sang Lilac Trees or some of those other songs. Just, I don't care if I was 15 years old. She would be welcome to do that at any time. Just the sense of caring for others, of looking for the downtrodden, and the sense of love for even the lowliest, that those songs and her tenderness embedded have become a real part of my life. And no doubt about it.
Well, folks, before you get through, I wanted you to, you've been talking about how you loved your mother. Tell us a little bit about how she loved you. If you remember my prejudice against television, when television first came out, there was a national debate really on how good or how bad it was, as it affected the study habits of children. Children were not doing their homework, watching television. And I told your mother We're not going to bring anything into this house that places entertainment over education. We want our children to read and not to just watch television. So I said, we're not going to have a television until at least for the foreseen future. But we remember the first time we took a trip alone up to Portland, Oregon, and up to Spokane, Washington. We took the Kramers with us up as far as Idaho. We went on to Spokane, and we were gone about 3 days. And we were in at Dean's house, and I said to your mother, "Oh, I miss those children." She says, "I do too." I said, "Let's call them up and let's hear them, talk to them." And she said, "Let's get them a television." And
Sure
so,
enough, 15 years later.
nearly everybody else had one. And so we called home and told you, "We're going to get you a television for Christmas." And I you know, we could hear the shout go up here.
I remember that
But,
telephone call.
But your mother was the one who instigated it, and her thoughts were that. And to prove it, we went on to Portland, Oregon, and after seeing some of the sights, we thought, now we're going to stay here maybe about 3 days and see all the sights in Portland. We went to the movie War and Peace. How long is it? 3 hours or 4 hours? I've forgotten. We sat
Was she
about 2
telling it or
hours.
watching it?
My mother finally said, "Let's go home." We got right up out of the show about 11 o'clock at night and started home. She loved you children, and you were her life. And she'll forever be enshrined in my memory as a mother whose heart and her soul, the whole world revolved around you children.
Our first television was called a radio.
The pictures were better on that.
They were.
Well, does anyone else have any special memories that they would like to share, Mother, before we...
Just tell once more, Mo, the story of teaching the children how to say their R's.
Oh, it was Annette Childs across the street, and she couldn't say her R's, the owl, like Lloyd and Lamona. And one day, she was over here playing, and Mother was talking to her, and Annette was just telling her a string of just something or whatever. And so Mom stopped her and said, "Now, can you say R?" She said, "Oh." And Mom says, "No, say R, oh." And she says, curl your tongue up and put it at the very back of your mouth, and then say R. And so she said, R, R. Pretty soon she was saying R, Roy, Ramona, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, and her eyes just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and pretty soon she ran across the street to tell her mother, Roy, Ramona, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. And then one day, I remembered it as being Roy, but Mom tells me that it was Corey that she was teaching Aaron to say his R's too. I think teaching Aaron to say his R's the very same way. And Corey had picked up on it, and he said was trying to teach Aaron how to say her S's. She had a hard time lisping. She was lisping her S's, and so Mother had talked to Aaron about saying her S's. Just keep your teeth together like this and say, "Sister Susie sitting on a thistle." And so she was teaching her like that. And later on in the evening, when Corey was working with Aaron about saying her S's, he said, "Now it's easy, Aaron. Just close your jaw and say, curler." That's Mom and her speech.
they were spinning a top. And she would spin the top, and it would go and go and go, it wouldn't stop. And then my kid would spin it, and it would just flop over and stop. And everybody else would just flop over and stop. And we'd say, Grandma, how can you get that top to go so fast, so long? And she held up her hand, and she said, I think it's because my hands are like this. You know how they were fan-making. That's my secret.
I think that probably everyone felt this way, but the reason that Grandma was so special to me was probably because she made me feel like I was her favorite grandchild in the world. You know, and I'm sure everyone felt this way too, but I remember especially the year that she made us all close. And I was looking through, you know, everyone had to choose theirs. I was looking through trying to find one that I liked. She took me aside and said, I was thinking of you when I made this one. I think I'd like you to have this one. She gave that one to me. That just meant so much to me. You know, I didn't really think about it then so much, but she took the time to think of each of us while she was doing things, and just things she did, and that just meant so much to know that she wanted me to have this one because she thought it was for me. I think that sums up probably why we all cared about her so much, because even though she was paying attention to everyone, it always felt like she was singling you out because you were the most important person in the world.
Well, I have to tell you about when I had my first baby. You know how Mom was. She was more like this when I got married than probably when you, because I think she learned some things. But she was one that liked to, you know, the mother hen liked to enfold her family. And, you know, she would say, not, are you available to come to dinner next Sunday? She'd say, you're coming to dinner next Sunday. We're going to have dinner, you know. And my husband, Niall, as you know, was quite independent, and he, sometimes he didn't really go for this, you know. I mean, he wanted a say in it. And so when we were expecting our first baby, Tim, he said, now, I don't want your mom coming over here and taking over. He said, we'll handle it ourselves. Everything will be okay. This is our family. We'll do it. So we brought Tim home. We stopped here at Grandma's, you know, showing him off and all of that. Then we went home. We lived over in Glendale Park at the time. And once we got settled there, all of a sudden Tim started to cry. And he cried and cried. And this was during the middle of the night. Niall would get up and walk the baby. I would get up and walk the baby. And he said, he's hungry. Give me some meat. I said, I'm hurting. There's no milk there yet anyway. You know, I don't have anything to give him. And we would both walk. We were up all night. It seems like just about walking. And the next morning, my mother called and I said, oh, I was just in tears, and oh, the baby's been crying all night, and you know, we can't get him to stop and everything, and besides that, I've just been put in this young women's president, and my counselor, an unmarried young gal, came over and told me all the problems that were going on. And, you know, you just, well, you that have had children, you know how it is. I just was devastated. So Mother called and she says, I'll be right over. Mother came over, she said, I'll just make my bed here on the couch in the living room, and I'll keep the baby by him tonight, and you won't even hear anything. And there was nobody so happy as my husband. But the only other baby she was able to come out for was when I had Rose. The other, she was all, it was right at Christmas time or whatever, different things going to the store. But we had so much fun with that little baby. She called her little Rosebud. And we'd sit there and we'd bathe her together, you know, and she'd dry her. And she was able to stay out there for about a week. And I just felt panicky when it was time for her to go home because I thought, oh, I can't get along. She said, you'll do just fine. And I did, you know, you get along. But, oh, it was sure nice to have Mom there for one of the babies.
She didn't differentiate between her own natural-born children and her in-laws. You know,
she loved babies.
She came out and stayed, you know, when our kids were born. It was the only mom Charlotte had since she was 10 years old, 11 years old, you know. And it was just your mom. Just your mom. Did the very same thing.
It was good when the first baby shower I had for Tim, you know, this is her first grandchild. And I had to come by home or something after I had been to the shower. And Mother wanted to see all the clothes. Not only did she want to see all of the baby things, she insisted on going and getting a doll, and putting all of these baby clothes on this doll to see how they look. So that was our mom. She loved those things.
Love dolls.
Rose, my daughter Rose is
Rose, it's been wonderful to have you.
So she just was.
We have
In like 50 minutes.
to wind up the evening. We have a poem that John has brought that we've kind of have tailored it to moms. And as we think about
Mother being here with us and the great joy that she's been in our lives, that there are all of those people on the other side of the veil who have been waiting for Mom to come to them, and how they must be rejoicing as we're gathered together here tonight. How they must be rejoicing, maybe even gathering together in their own meeting, having and sharing their memories, and Mom sharing with them some of her memories of us and of them. And when he showed me this poem, I thought it was so fitting to share, and I'd like to read it with you. Paradise is all a bustle, across the hall, not far away. Folks are telling one another, Afton's coming home today. Mother, father, all will gather. Bert and Grace and Jackie dear, Niall and Charlotte and Bernetta Barton will be saying, Afton's here. Folks too numerous to mention, those whose lives have touched her own, will be waiting at the doorway there to welcome Afton home. How they'll sing in glad reunion, reminisce the joys they've known. Paradise with cheer will glisten, now that Afton's finally home. And we know that as we're shedding our tears of sorrow at losing her, how they must be singing shouts of joy because Afton's finally home. And we're thankful to Heavenly Father for letting us have her as long as we have had her. And to end this evening, I'd like to have us sing the lullaby that we all love and know as Mom's lullaby to us. And I played it for you today. And I would like us all to sing it tonight as we end this meeting and this tribute to Mother.
Could we sing one sad song first?
That's pretty sad.
How about Life of Trees? And then we can sing...
Two Little Orphans.
Orphans. Okay, Two Little Orphans, and then we'll sing Go to Sleep, My Baby. Okay? Two little orphans, a boy and a girl, stood by the old church door. The little girl's face was as brown as a curl that hung on the dress that she wore. The boy's coat was faded and half lost his head. A tear shone
sick angels took her away. She said to a home warm and bright, they'll come for her, darling, she told us someday. Perhaps they are coming tonight. Maybe tonight there's no room there, she said. Two little ones to keep. Then placing her arm under little Jim's head, she kissed him and both fell asleep. The sexton came early to ring the church bell and found them beneath the snow white. The angels made room for the orphans to dwell with Papa and Mama that night. Go to sleep, my baby. Close your pretty eyes. The lady moon is watching from out the darkening skies. The little stars are peeping to see if you are sleeping. Go to sleep, my baby. Go to sleep, good night. Here comes the sandman dripping so lightly over the ground on the tips of his toes. He scatters the sand with his own little hand to the eyes of the sleeping children. Go to sleep, my baby. Close your pretty eyes. The lady moon is watching from out the darkening skies. The little stars are peeping to see if you are sleeping. Go to sleep, my baby. Go to sleep, good night.
Good night, Afty.
Well, Afton,